Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Backlot. We are the Backlot Boys. This is episode 4, Foreign Park Update. That is right, there's been some huge expansion plans announced for some of the other Disneyland parks throughout the world that very excited to look into and see all the details. Am I right, boy Gunnar? Those things look amazing.
Howdy. Yeah, if you're wondering, you're kind of looking at the parks and you're like, man, they're not spending any money on updating these rides or doing this. First of all, you wouldn't say that because there's walls up around everything. But when we start going through Tokyo Disneyland and Seas and Hong Kong and Disney World and all these other Paris, we go to all these other places, you will see where these dollars are going. And it is it's heavy. There are a lot of giant projects. The biggest expansion, I think, Disney Seas has ever had, and then like the most expensive too. So there's a lot of stuff going on. We're excited to talk to you guys about this today.
Yeah, most expensive expansion ever to Disneyland Paris. Also, more than the entire Disney studio park that they built. This expansion cost like twice or even 3 times the amount that park cost to build.
Yeah, well, the Disney Studios park, to be fair, when they built that thing, I mean, a couple $1,000 bucks? Like you walked around that place, you'd see. It's not
just a little stroll, and you've seen everything there is to see. Maybe you get a little Armageddon.
Well, oh my God, jeez Louise. But threw me off a little bit with the Armageddon thing because I'm always clowning about that. But, people used to say, and I can't remember which park this was. I think this was actually with regards to Hollywood Studios at Disney World, that it was a half-day park. Mm-hmm. And that same thing could be said about California Adventure. The one at Paris is like, you're over there an hour and a half, however long it takes you to wait for Ratatouille and maybe where you're that little RC car from Toy Story going up and down. Otherwise, there's no reason to be over there.
But they have some pretty amazing plans so far announced for that, yes, which are really cool. Lots of Frozen. That's going to be a theme that you'll see throughout these different things we'll talk about. But I just want to point out, sorry about the lack of podcast recently. That's 100% my fault. I've been sick, and then my computer broke, but we're rolling once again here, and we're super excited to start making our podcast again, and even standalone videos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got a lot of different ideas. These standalone videos will be fun. They'll be a lot shorter. They might be kind of like spin-offs a little bit of some of the topics we talk about on here, or completely different things too. So that'll be fun, and definitely be watching for those. We'll make announcements as they're coming about. But yeah, we've got a lot of things going, and thank you so much for your patience. We do apologize for the lull. We had some stuff going on. Scar tried to put all the weight on himself. It's a little bit of both of us, but we're back in the game. We're ready to go.
But let's now jump into the Kingdom Cable and see what kind of news has been around the kingdoms.
Hey, okay, Scar. So we've got about 3 main issues going on in the news, kind of the hotter issues, if you will. One of those is, of course, the Disney versus Comcast, Bob Iger versus Brian Roberts duel for Fox. We've got some staff changes that took place over on the production side over at the Animation Studios and at Pixar, and some labor issues taking place in Anaheim. Where do you want to start that?
Let's start with the biggie, the big one, the big cheese, the $70 billion.
Those of you, I'm sure many listeners, because you guys are stoked about Disney, you may also be shareholders. So you've gotten these packets in the mail, you've got the emails, and you've got all this stuff going on surrounding this, Disney's potential buying of Fox. So the ball is currently in Comcast's court as Disney put up the bid at $71.3 billion, which is a cash and stock option to Fox shareholders, which is good because it gives them the option, whereas Comcast gave a cash-only offer at around $65 billion. So with the ball in the court of Comcast, I don't know that they will counter. I think they should, but I don't know that that'll happen. I'm not saying that I want Comcast to swoop in there, but they have that opportunity, and that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to just kind of. I don't know. I'm not really sure about that. I think, first of all, I don't like Comcast at all. But also, I don't know that this is the best move for Disney. Brian Roberts started the thing.
We're proud of him.
But, I think about Bob Iger and Brian Roberts. I'm going to go off track here a little bit, but I've been wondering who would win in an arm wrestling match. Is there an opinion from the Scar side of things? What do you think would happen here?
I'm looking at 2 pictures of these guys. I'm gonna give it to Bob. Bob looks a little healthier, a little more color in the face.
Let me throw something in here, and not that this matters. Bob Iger has one prosthetic knee.
Oh yeah. So maybe that means he's out there, he's working, he's exercising, and that's why he needed a new knee. Work one out.
Iger, for those of you guys who don't know this, is a very avid fitness guy. Iger gets up, from what I understand, at around 4:15 in the morning to crank out this workout. And what he does is he gets on a thing called a Versa Climber. And it's, you put your feet on these little pedal things. It's a simple machine. Feet on these little pedal things, your hands up on these other little things that look like handlebars for like maybe a bike. And it simulates a climbing motion. It's a brutal cardio machine. And after Iger talked about doing this machine with Variety or somebody else, some other interview, LeBron James and this other guy from the Clippers started doing it. And they even like texted him a video or snapped him a video of them doing that exercise, saying that this is like absolutely exhausting. Iger does it every day for this amount of time. So at first I wasn't sure, because Iger's about 7 years older than Roberts. But in terms of, and that doesn't mean anything. So anyway, I was thinking, I think Iger could probably take him. He's, he looks like staunch and ready for action.
Yeah, and I mean, it's Comcast.
Yeah, Comcast, forget it. Like,
so
I don't know.
I'm on Iger's side, even though sometimes I question some decisions, but I like Iger. I like him. He's good. He's important.
You got to question that stuff, because sometimes where the thought is coming from on this can be very confusing. And I think we always have to remember there's a lot of stuff we don't know. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff we do, and it's the responsibility of you and the shareholders and everybody really to be a little bit of a watchdog on some of this stuff. So, I guess the only thing really left to say about this merger, there's a lot to say about it, but there's also not a lot to say. The SEC, what's in front of them right now is the antitrust agreement, which is pending. The USJD and the SEC have to go over this. Disney's concession or their promise to the SEC right now is that if they're to acquire Fox, and this is going to get approved. There's no way that it won't. If Disney gets this, they would agree to sell off the FSN assets. That's like all the different Fox sport networks. They're kind of all over the place. They're regional, regional sports networks. And so that's actually the majority of Fox's revenue is coming from these. So they sell that off, and hey, Comcast Consolation Prize, take this. Disney really shouldn't have those because of some conflicts of interest, and that's really what is allowing them to get past this antitrust stuff. But there's also been talk, Bezos like a shark kind of hanging out in the water. Maybe he swoops in and he adds these to their sports networks, because Amazon is like a budding broadcast portfolio that's really been picking up in the last couple of years. I don't think people would be that surprised to see Bezos come in for the kill.
Yeah, Amazon Prime, the video portion of it has been kind of flat lately, but they're adding a whole bunch of new stuff. They have the Lord of the Rings thing coming maybe next year. That's going to be the most expensive TV show ever produced. And then they've got, is it Jack Ryan with the guy from The Office? Jim Halpert. They're ramping that up quite a bit, because it had been really like dull lately. I mean, whatever happened to Man in the High Castle? Good show, important show, gone. But apparently it's coming back like next year now.
A lot of shows. I feel like Amazon kind of, but I think a lot of this was in the, they were planning on some of these other big moves, and they just simply, tactfully, it didn't make sense. They just couldn't do it. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I wouldn't be against, seeing Amazon shoot for some of those, I don't want to say like, the stuff that falls on the floor, but because, the networks are huge. And I don't know about The Simpsons either. There's been talk about, doing some funny things with that. We talked about this on the phone, but like, I think it's crazy that if Disney bought Fox and didn't sell off The Simpsons facet of this whole thing, how does that play in with Universal Studios and having this like giant chunk of their park dedicated to The Simpsons? They've got the ride and all these other little store fronts and stuff like that. What do they do about that?
I don't know. They might have the theme park rights. Like Harry Potter's theme parks rights are to Universal. The movie rights are Warner Brothers.
Right.
Like J.K. Rowling sold those things off like piece by piece. So maybe they own the Simpsons theme park rights, similar to how Universal owns the theme park rights to Marvel on the East Coast. Like everything past like the Mississippi.
Oh, yeah.
But it's very confusing because it even gets a little bit deeper. They own the rights to Avenger characters. That's why they can get away with the Guardians of the Galaxy at Epcot right now, because originally Guardians of the Galaxy did not, or they weren't in the universe that the Avengers were in. I think. See, I don't know a ton about Marvel, but I think that's how it was explained to me. And then another thing,
I didn't really know that either.
Another thing would be, I mean, I was thinking, what if Disney and Comcast, they get together, they might not like each other. I mean, Comcast guy lost his arm wrestling contest, but they kind of, sit down, and they say, okay, you can have the Simpsons, we'll slide that over to you. And we want the Marvel rights for Disney World, because it is very strange. They spend all this money and now they can't really build them in Disney World. I mean, I'm not the hugest Marvel fan in the world. I'd prefer them to at least not be in the Disney parks, but that's not going to happen, or at least maybe have them in a separate park. Because I think it would have been awesome in Disneyland if they had a third park where that's where they put Star Wars, and they could put, maybe some Avatar. They could throw in the Marvel. It would be an awesome park in the end. And then they could keep, Disney just kind of the way it has always been, the successful way it's been, and not kind of infuse these other things. But, they didn't
like
do that.
Disney's IP land or something they could call it. All the intellectual property goes in outside. Well, Pixar, I don't really consider that. But all that other stuff goes in there.
Yeah, perfect. There you go.
Funny little things.
That's
IP land.
That's all I wanted in my life.
It's actually going to be, it'll be IP and AP land. So it's annual pass holders are over there. IP is over there. You go over there if you want to. Like, you're subjecting yourself to the jungle if you go in there, but people are on their laptops, they're doing their homework at the park and all kinds of nonsense.
So this deal with Fox is $65 billion.
Well, right now, 71.3.
Oh,
so
okay.
Comcast has 65 posted as cash only. Disney has the cash plus stock at 71.3. So right now, as of Friday, 71.3.
That's more than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
That could have gone a lot of other places.
Oh my gosh, can you even imagine? And that's there's a B, right? Billion, $71.3 billion.
That's
Fox? No, it's not like
amount of money. Is there enough assets to warrant that? Like, I mean, I know they're going to get Mrs. Doubtfire. It's an important movie.
I think it really comes down to Miss Doubtfire. Hello, when she has all that stuff on her face. Remember when she's in the bathroom? Oh my gosh! But I think a classic Robin Williams. But yeah, no, I guess that's it. I guess it's the Miss Doubtfire. It's hard to believe that people need to check this value. That seems so wacky to me. I know that the sports networks are bringing in the cash, and obviously the Simpsons, but Simpsons, I don't know. I like the Simpsons. It's funny, but how long can that go on? Like, what are the shows about? Have you watched it lately, or?
No, I've always meant to ever watch not Seinfeld, but Simpsons, but I never really got into it. I'm sure it's good. I just never got into it.
I liked it as a kid. No, it's great. I'm sure it's good too. But anyway, I'm not going to knock the Simpsons here. But that's what's going on. We'll see. We'll see what goes on here again. So really, you've got Bob Iger, Ithaca College. He does the climbing machine. And then you have Brian Roberts with Comcast, and Brian played squash as a younger man. I think, actually, I don't know when he stopped playing. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he's still at it. But squash, it is a hard game, and it's very fast paced for a brief amount of time. But Iger, he does all that cardio. He's got the endurance, sticks it out. So I think Disney comes out. If Disney wants Fox, they'll get Fox.
Yeah.
The SEC will approve this. It will go through. And if Comcast, for some weird reason, came in at like 75 and Fox was just like, all right, we'll take it. The amount of hoops that they would have to jump through with the SEC, they would just get, they would just get bombarded. It wouldn't even be funny. It would take so long that it would give Disney another chance to counter. Disney's going to get it. If they want it, they'll get it. I think that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what's in it for Disney. I guess, they would finally get all of the rights for Marvel. They'd get, the mutants, Jean-Luc Picard and those fellas. They'd get
that's right.
Avatar.
You're a Star Trek guy.
Fox owns the rights to Star Trek?
No, but Jean-Luc Picard, he was on there, so I saw you bringing him over from some of that stuff. So
I forgot Xavier, whatever his name was from X-Men. And I don't know. It to me, it feels like they could probably, invest that into talent to create original content, but not in charge over here. But that's okay. He does his thing. Iger, I like him. He's important, like I said. But what else is going on?
So we did want to talk about the staff changes. So on the production side, I'm sure there's staff changes everywhere. But and I'm going to be brief with this because there's some there's a lot that needs to be said, and also not very much. John Lasseter, top dog since 2006 over at Pixar, and involved with Disney far before that. Net worth $120 million. It's a rough estimate, and that doesn't include any of his the Last Family winery or any of this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But so he's going to be leaving Pixar at the end of the year. Don't know if he's going to have any kind of consulting role. I don't think so. I think he's out of there at the end of the year. So the chief creative officer for the Walt Disney Animation Studios, I should say this too, Lasseter was in charge of both the animation studios and Pixar.
And he had a role in the parks. He was the chief creative advisor to the parks. Also merchandise too.
Yeah, and we can if Lasseter had a business card, it would need to be like an 8x11 piece of paper. The guy had so many titles and did so much over there that this is going to be tricky. But and that's not even the right word. But as Lasseter puts an egg in his shoe and beats it, the Walt Disney Animation Studios is going to be COO'd by Jennifer Lee, who has been with Disney since 2011. She wrote Frozen, and she co-wrote Wreck-It Ralph. Can't remember who her compatriot on that was, but and then so she'll be doing that. She has the thing that I liked about Lee is, and I don't know too much about her, but the fact that they were putting somebody with a solid creative background into that role.
That's
because
good.
I was worried. You can't just throw somebody in retail in there like a Cynthia Harris or a Pressler type person. Not that there's anything wrong with these people, but we talked about that. But there is. But you can't. That's just that would be a bad position. So I'm glad they brought her in there. She's been with the company 7-8 years. That's okay. So we'll see how that goes. And so Jenny goes into that spot, and then you've got Pete Docter. Been with like, has he been with Pixar since '90?
I do believe he was brought in for Toy Story because John Lasseter would have been the first artist brought into Pixar. That's when Ed Catmull, Steve Jobs brought him in. So I think and he came in as an intern, I think also.
Yeah, Docter came in on the mailroom style guy. Since 1990, I think he's been there. So he will also take that same title that Jenny has over at Animation Studios. He's going to be the chief creative officer over there. You guys know Pete Docter as he was the director of Up, Inside Out, and many other things. But those ones, was he the straight up director for Monsters?
I think so.
Okay, all of them.
No, not the movie, not the college
University
version. Yeah, not that one.
Okay, that was a good one. But anyway, so you got Docter in that role. You got Jennifer over here. We'll see what happens.
Huge Disneyland fan.
Yeah,
that guy. Also, good guy, important guy. He lived very close to us. He has a tree house, the whole thing. Yeah,
he's got a lot of stuff going on. He used a lot of his own personal. We think he used a lot of his own personal experiences as a young man and an adolescent, maybe a little older than that too, in the movie Inside Out. There's been a lot of allusions to that and things like this. So that was kind of interesting. Cool guy. I'd love to meet him. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, he seems like a good guy. I don't know the other person very well, but I've been following what's his name for a very long time. So I'm excited about that.
Humble, fairly humble, not going to say humble, but fairly normal background. His mom's a choir teacher in Minnesota, all this kind of stuff. So, so that's Pete. Good guy, important guy. Jennifer, good girl, important girl. I don't know. I think this will be fun. It'll be fun to see how that goes. Hopefully in a good way.
The parks are going to have a huge void not having that, because especially with Cars Land back in the day when they wanted to cut the budgets, Lasseter had so much power to override those budget cuts that person that had that power is gone to kind of oversee a lot of those things, which is definitely sad that we don't have that kind of power, that creative mind that's keeping some of these accountants at bay. It's a shame. There's some great quotes back in the day from those Cars Land meetings. Yeah.
Anything off the top of your head? Can you remember any of these?
I remember one.
Lasseterisms?
This guy wanted to cut the budget, and Lasseter told him, if you do that, you're going to stand out in the exit and tell people why that ride stunk or something like that.
That'd be pretty funny. Classic. Well, so, I mean, and I think we're not going to get into the ousting. The reason Lasseter left, everybody knows there was some inappropriate behavior that was kind of mentioned about him, brought up. And I'm not discrediting any of that. What he was doing, that's somebody's not comfortable, they're not comfortable. That's all there is to it. So it's unfortunate that we're losing him. But, more on the last passionate guy about diabetes research. Maybe what he'll do, maybe Lasseter will liven up some of those PSAs on diabetes. Liven those up a little bit, do something like that. That'd be great. And he's got the Lasseter winery. I mean, check please. He's got a lot of stuff going on. He'll be all right.
He's not. He's going to do other stuff based on his statement. So I don't see him.
He's not. He's not going to fold up on from a creative standpoint. Not in the least. We'll see him. We'll see him. Okay, and so that's what we're going to see with some staff changes, and then most of those don't go into effect until early 2019. But that's not that far away. We had the solstice a few days ago. It's we're in the middle of the summer now.
Summer's over. It's already getting less days, less time.
Yeah, I don't know. They've been doing the back to school ads. I've seen these online. I apologize, any kids listening. That's the worst. So labor issues. So we've got some labor issues. This doesn't really apply to too many other parks, but it could, depending on what happens here. Basically, if you guys haven't heard, you probably have, there was in the city of Anaheim had a workers' rally. There were hundreds of Disney employees at this thing. And basically what they're doing is they're pushing for a municipal ballot initiative that if you are getting city, county, state, federal government subsidies, any of these levels of government, subsidiary funding, you will have to pay a minimum hourly wage of $15, state of California. Depending on what happens in November in California with this, if this, first of all, it gets on the ballot and then they push this thing through, if this goes down, I know that the Anaheim, a couple of bigwigs in Anaheim are against it, but we'll see what happens. Many other areas around the country could follow suit. So I'm not going to put my own opinion into this too much. I just wanted to kind of give you guys the facts. But so I'm going to leave it at that. But that's something that could happen. It just kind of depends on how this goes. There's lots of different unions getting involved. They're really trying to merge this all together, because if you think about it, the cast members in Anaheim, you've got a lot of different trades all being represented there. Mm-hmm. So there's also a lot of different unions that are representing these trades and getting these people to get along and get together and chat. It'll be interesting. So, but who's leading the show? Hi, I'm Bernie Sanders. Believe it or not, I'm still alive. And I think Disney cast members are making peanuts. He's not happy with how much money these guys are making. Scar, how did Sanders even get aware of this? I feel like you had some background on it. I can't remember.
He was aware of it because he's also an actor at Universal. He plays Doc Martin. He runs around there. He's got the goggles on from Back to Future 2.
Oh, you're saying Doc Brown. Doc Martin is a pair of shoes.
Oh, no. Yeah, Doc. Yeah, the Doc from Back to the Future. And he's trying to... All right, I was trying to make a joke. It may have failed. No, I get it. I see how it is.
Classic. It was classic.
But he does look like him, kind of disheveled.
Yeah.
Fella.
You guys have heard this joke, I think. And there's a lot of nice things about Bernie Sanders, but you guys have heard this joke where during the campaign, somebody tweeted, or there was a meme. There were a lot of memes going on about this, and I'm going to butcher the language, but basically what they said was, they're like, Bernie Sanders is like that mad scientist, or not mad scientist, but that scientist in all those disaster movies that has the right answers, or he's got the cure, or like the way to solve this problem or to stop these aliens. But because his hair is so messy and he keeps dropping his papers all over the ground, nobody takes him serious. So this is Bernie Sanders. This is maybe this is what happened with the election. Who knows? I don't know that, but so that's his outlook. Basically, Disneyland or Walt Disney Company, $9 billion in profits, and he generalizes. All of these statements are super general, as Disney does. Everybody does. So $9 billion in profits, and he's saying, well, you have all this money, you can't raise their hourly wage. You've got 30-year-old employees starving, living below the poverty line, specifically in Anaheim, but probably other places too. And and then you're divvying out of from that $9 billion, $400 million to the joint CEOs across their assets. So each one of their little divisions, factions, and stuff around their holding company is giving $400 million to CEOs. Who's worth that much?
Yeah, that's a good question. They better be making some pretty good churros. So when it comes to that, I think cast members, they need some more money. They shoot them some more cash.
Of course.
Another thing they do need, and this is something a cast member had told me, is that when people complain about cast members and say, oh, they're not very professional in terms of like workforce, being like, good at doing their job in terms of customer service. And it's like, well, why is that? When they told me that there's not a lot of training for customer facing relations. It's mainly like, hey, how do you lift the box? This is the right way. And a little bit of like traditions on, the company, the history and stuff. And then they just like get you in your spot. They teach you the basics of the job and that's it. They need to go back. They need to pay more and they need to go back to how they used to teach cast members, add all those skills on how to deal with people, especially these days with how crowded it is. Tempers are running, you got to be at your best.
Man. People are hot. Yeah, you're right. And so what are you saying? Like they come in here and they get like the, probably like some sexual harassment training and then they get the OSHA thing about lifting the boxes and that's about it?
That's about it. They get a little bit of traditions. This is what I was explained by a cast member. And he says that a lot of the cast members that are, that are really great, which there are tons of them, that's mainly stuff that they just, they want to work at Disney. That's they're
passionate.
Yeah. And, local managers also play a big role in that. They might provide, extra guidance and stuff like that. But overall, cast members aren't trained like they used to be because it's just like kind of get them in, get them out type of deal. But that's changing based on the unemployment rate, how low it is, and how Disney's starting to have less and less applicants. Back when during the recession was going on, there was gigantic wait lists trying to get into the parks because there was always an ample amount of jobs.
That's interesting. But even, I did read a statement that one of the guys at the Chamber of Commerce in Anaheim had brought up was that in Orange County, Disney is still the most sought after company to work for. So throughout, the job boards and all this kind of all these resources, that's where the majority of people in Orange County, like that's still receiving the biggest, the most people are being sucked into that or trying to make that happen. So it's still a lot of people want to work there.
Yeah.
And I know that the commerce guy talked about it. Of course, Bernie Sanders' main opponent on this is the spokesperson, Vice President of Communication, Disney, Susie Brown. And she basically said, Sanders, he criticizes Disney really just to stay in the headlines, which I thought was pretty funny.
Got him.
She stabbed. She went for it. Busted.
That's pretty funny. She's been around a while. I recognize her name like through quite a few years, right?
Yeah, I think she's been there 10 years.
Okay.
She's been there at least like about 10 years. I think I want to say she maybe 08 or something she started back then. And but her response to this, of course, was besides, dogging on Sanders, is that she said that, Disney provides extra support to the cast members by way of investments and education. And I'm just this is devil's advocate from them. And these are investments in education that are kind of expensed by Disney. What am I going to invest if I'm not making any money?
Yeah.
Hate to say it, but and I'm sure it's a stock option or something like that. They always do that, all the things. But the education side too, where you're telling me that they're not getting trained, then like, what is this education on top? Like education for, is this like the Disney, it's not the Disney college program. Like, what do they educate them on?
I don't know. That's a good question. They always talk about that, big investments in education, but if you're familiar with how some of these things work, it's very difficult to sign up for them. I think of my brother maybe in the Navy, how some of those GI Bills are tough to deal with and stuff. So when I hear that, it's just kind of like,
it's a thing.
Throw them a couple extra bucks. That just seems like the right thing to do. I mean,
most people would just rather have a little extra money right now. They want the, they'll take Linda courses. They'll take it at a local college. They'll figure it out a different way.
Yeah, but it's like, I think cast members deserve to make more money, but I mean, clearly people are still signing up to work at the company, and so it's Disney just doesn't really see it necessary.
If you're not willing, there's always going to be somebody willing to do that job. If you're not going to do it, you're going to sit in here and you're going to whine about it with your union. Then keep doing that while somebody else takes your job.
Yeah, it kind of seems like that's how it is.
That's the reality of how this could go down. Sanders is doing his thing, and it's good to have representation. I'm glad that people have a voice. That being said, the people for Bernie, have any like listeners, and actually, if any of you guys have any details on what that education that Disney does provide their cast members the option to receive this additional training or education, let us know. Throw it in the comments or something like that, or give us a link or whatever, because I'd love to know what it is. Just I can't imagine what it is. So so she puts this statement out there, and then there's a Twitter handle, and it's basically Bernie Sanders' biggest kind of non or unofficial support group. It's called People, and then the number 4 Bernie. That's their Twitter handle. And they go into this thing and they go, "We should shame Disney." And I'm sure shame was in all caps. And I was like, okay, good luck, guys. I mean, you have 378 likes on that. And I just found, just goofing around on Twitter, a photo of an apple slice with a hair on it, and that had 60,000 comments. So an apple with a hair on it, 60,000 comments. You're bashing on Disney, 378 likes tops.
Ooh,
maybe some of those will be retracted by the end of the weekend. So it's just, I'm not trying to, again, not putting my own things into this. I like to goof on anything. So so that's the deal right now with the labor issues. Maybe we'll throw in some updates as that goes. It's gonna just be kind of like not even really ebbing and flowing. It's just gonna kind of cruise along until November. If this is on the ballot, this gets passed, then obviously things will change. But in the meantime, there won't be I can't imagine there'll be too many updates on this subject matter between now and then. Bernie will lose a bunch of papers, and they'll put somebody else into that role that can tie their tie all the way up to the top. It'll be easier.
Well, maybe we'll get them a comb. But yeah, sure. I think Disney can give some more money to the cast members. Cast members make more money. The happier they are, the more likely they are they're going to have good experience with the guests. Guests are going to be super happy. They're going to be like, man, I met the super awesome cast members. And instead of being real stressed about where you're going to eat and all that business and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They
should
be able to make.
It still happens like it used to. I don't know that it happens as much, but some of our beloved, Disney animators, Imagineers, executives came from roles as, they're sweeping up popcorn, or they're doing this and they're doing that. They're crowd control. Like, there's cast members. It's not just like hearing the words minimum wage and cast member, that has always confused me or bothered me a little bit, because that's a special job. It's a very, to me anyway, to us, Disney fans, that's a very important job that those guys, so much influence on people's vacations and their lives and thing. And so seeing some of the cast members occasionally taking this lightly is disappointing, but there's so many great ones out there. It's just exceptional. And you got to treat those guys well, because eventually they could have some say in how that place is run. And then we're going to be on here complaining about more stuff. So,
So the cast members, or Disney has always hired a lot of people from within the company. Like, Disney's a different company. It's not like Target or Walmart or anything like that. Disney's like a special company. It's always sad when they try to make it more and more like any other corporate organization. Disney's always been different from the others from the start of it. Like Walt coming in there being a disruptor within Hollywood, and they've always done things differently. And the more they try to be more and more like Target or Walmart or any of these other corporations, it's just like, you're a unique company. That's how you were founded. That's how you've been successful. You got to keep doing that, and don't be hip. Sorry, I had to interject that. Whenever Disney wants to be hip and with the times, they fail. Just be yourself. All right,
they really do. When they changed the logo for the Disney Channel like a few years ago, that was just, that's a different, separate issue. But yeah, from a design perspective, and it was that was awful. That was just awful. The masses agree. I don't know what they were thinking. But so those are the headlines. We're talking about Disney and Comcast going after Fox. Bob Iger, Brian Roberts, the arm wrestling match. Weigh in. Let us know. What do you think? Who's going to win this match? Again, squash. It's a respectable sport to a certain degree. Why do they wear those weird clothes? But then you got Bob Iger climbing on the Versa climber all the time. LeBron James is learning from him. My other man from the Clippers learned from them. So I think Disney takes it if they want it. Lasseter's out. Jennifer Lee and Pete Docter are in. And Bernie Sanders still can't find a comb.
Well, that was a lot of updates in terms of Disney. A lot of news lately, but I think it's time to jump into the main topic today, and that is international parks and all the super cool things coming to them. I'm so excited about these. We've got to someday make it, especially to Tokyo.
I agree. And I heard somebody commenting on this. This was on a message board on it was one of the Disney travel blogs or something. And somebody brought up the point where they said, hey, you guys are, because a lot of people in the States have their obsessions generally revolve around, the California parks and the Florida parks. It's cool to be able to say parks about both of them. That's neat. So the California parks, the Florida parks. But they just kind of like dismiss the foreign parks. And the guy goes, well, hey, think about it like this. Save your money. Maybe skip one Disneyland trip this year, maybe next year, however much you think you need to do this, and skip a Florida trip. Now you have the cash in this bucket. You go to Tokyo. Now, Scar, for you, it's a little tougher with the breathing and all this kind of stuff. So that concept doesn't apply to everybody. Obviously, it's circumstantial for each person. But it is a good point. We do spend, like, I know I spend way too much money on cheese. If I had my cheese budget and dialed it way, way, way back, maybe just cut it out for a little bit. I'm not going to do that. But let's say I did. Like, I could put a decent amount away for some of this stuff. There are things that are going on at these foreign parks. We have to. We need to get out there. But there's things that are going on out there that are unbelievable right now, not to mention what's on its way. So why don't you, I think we're going to start with Tokyo, but I'd dive in. I'd dive right in if I were you.
Yeah, I think a lot of people domestically don't quite understand how truly immersive and amazing Tokyo Disneyland is. Tokyo Disneyland is run a lot like Disneyland was maybe in the 80s and 70s in terms of the quality and stuff like that. Just the attention to detail to things is just absolutely astounding. Now, the Tokyo Disney Resort is not run by Disney. It is licensed by Disney. So the Oriental Land Company, who owns the
Oriental Land Company, is crushing it.
Yeah.
In terms of customer support, in terms of guest support, they're handling it. They're, as they say, TCOB. They don't say that. We say that. Taking care of business. They're doing a great job there. Yeah,
these people are just so good at what they do. So in Tokyo, like I said, it's not run by Disney, but it's licensed from Disney. Their attendance is a little bit lower, and these parks are packed. Like, they're just packed to the gills. So they need to expand and to make more room, attract more people into the parks, because surprisingly the attendance is a little bit low, but it's still quite high in terms. But the first thing we're going to talk about is Tokyo Disneyland. Now, researching this, these plans have changed a few times. Originally, they were going to build a frozen land over at Tokyo Disney Seas, which we'll speak about in a moment. They've canceled those plans, and they were going to relocate Small World at one point, and there was a whole thing. Now what they're going to do is they're going to make a Beauty and the Beast land with a full Beast castle with an attraction inside, a trackless ride. So think of something like a Mystic Manor or Winnie the Pooh Honey Hunt or something along those lines. I'm not sure if their Monsters Inc. is trackless. Maybe somebody could correct us if it is. I don't know if it is or not, but it's going to be a trackless attraction, so that's going to be so cool. It's going to have Belle's Village, so for all your Belle needs, you got the Gaston's Tavern, you got some shops and things along those lines, and then it's going to have a Beasts Theater, so this like really cool forest themed theater. For like different plays and that kind of stuff. Not so big into that myself. And then Toontown's going to get an expansion. I don't know exactly what this is. Details were vague. Minnie's Design Studio. I don't know what that is.
What's going on in there? What is Minnie's Design Studio? Because I saw that as a bullet point, but I wasn't really sure what that was.
So as far as I can tell, looking at the concept art, maybe it's like the Bibbidi Bobbidi Book. Oh man, I goofed that up. Bibbidi Bobbidi Book Boutique. Maybe it could be. I'm not 100% sure on that account, but that makes
sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, and then there's this little kind of like no man's land kind of chunk of land that they're going to fill in with a Baymax ride. So Baymax, of course, is from Big Hero 6, 7, 6, 5. I think 6. There we go. And he's like a big, fluffy fella. He blows up, medical guy. Good fella. They're using the same system that Maynard's Junkyard Jamboree uses. So it's the thing you sit down into, some kind of like a little carriage in the back, and then there's a device on the front that kind of swings you all around. It's the same thing they're using in Disney World for the green alien guys. So that is for Tokyo. So that's their expansion. This whole thing will be done in around 2020. Construction's already underway. They got the cranes, the fences. The fences apparently are super popular for like selfies and things there. But
everything is popular for selfies there. So, and that's not a dig. It's just that's
yeah. No, they like it. It's important.
So Beauty and the Beast, the movie came out as part of like the animation renaissance. It was all kind of in that area. Do you think they're going to have a roaming character Remember that guy in Beauty and the Beast? This is the only character in there that I always think of, and I do this to a lot of people to see if they know what I'm talking about. And he comes to the door where Belle is, and he has super long fingers, and he either has them folded or he has them like tapping each other. You know how people do that. And he's like, "We've come to collect your father."
Ooh.
You know, creepy guy. He's like kind of looks like a mortician. Obviously, he runs an asylum or a representative of some kind. But I thought, hey, what do you think? Maybe this guy is out as roaming character. If he's not, and they're doing like did they do the Halloween thing there? Did they do the Mickey's Not So Scary thing there?
It's actually scary. Like they go full out. Oh, not as much as Hong Kong. Hong Kong goes full on scary, almost as close to Universal or Knott's Berry Farm does. But no, at Tokyo they get real crazy. I think it's a little bit more like, you know, silly. I think it's a little more silly. Sure. So not as scary like say Paris does, a little more scary. That's right. Tokyo's a little more silly business.
Yeah. Okay, definitely. Yeah, I get a silly vibe from Tokyo. So, but maybe they do the Halloween thing. If we ever went, maybe we go around Halloween. I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be that character. I'm going to dress up like him.
The guests at Tokyo, they love to dress up.
I could have some prosthetic fingers or something, longer fingers. That guy, he's in my mind all the time. I don't know who did the voice or anything like that, but whoever drew him, the lasting impression. So.
Yeah, this place looks really cool. It's something that I want to bring back to like domestically is that when we have a Disney World like Belle's Experience, you know, you kind of go from room to room, you kind of play act a little bit.
So is it kind of like all those stuff that are in like the Hogwarts things at Universal or not?
Well, Belle's Experience or whatever it's called at Disney World is something like you go through there, you meet Belle, like you might wear like a little like hat and you play out a scene or something. I was always hoping that would be a ride like they're getting at Tokyo. I was like, man, like if that was an actual attraction, like a dark ride that's trackless, oh my gosh, that would be amazing. But, you know, I guess little kids might enjoy, you know, meeting Belle and stuff, which is important. But this attraction looks absolutely insane. So the next thing Tokyo is doing in their Tokyo Disney Seas Park, and if you have not experienced or seen this in any way, I highly encourage you to look on YouTube, look up some videos. The Lost Island area is just absolutely insane. So they're going to be building 3 new lands in a new port. The port is themed to fantasy. So there's going to be kind of a river that flows through there, and it's going to lead you to fantasy. And within that, you're going to find a Frozen Land, a Tangled Land, and a Neverland.
Now, with the Neverland, how is that going to exactly the same or a little different than Neverland Ranch? I'm just trying to. How does that differ? I think they're going to be about pretty much the same. But I just wanted to double check.
Yeah, you'd hope that they might be a little different, you know.
Yeah, just a few things, you know, just a couple of things that maybe make people feel a little more comfortable.
Yeah, maybe a little bit better theming. There were a lot of spinner rides back then, and I know there was
a little more oversight.
Farm animals and some zoo animals there too.
Yeah, kind of roaming. I feel like a free roam for all the barnyard characters.
There was a lot of he had like a full zoo there. Like
the exotic animals, and it's not just like the Bengal tiger on leash. It was a whole lot of stuff was going on in there.
Yeah, crazy,
neat things. Anyway,
also they're building a hotel. Now this is going to be their most luxurious hotel. They already have a really nice one, the Casa Mesa or something it's called.
This is an in-park hotel too, isn't it?
In-park hotel themed to fantasy. To me, it looks similar to the architecture that they've used in the past for different buildings.
What kind of fantasy are you talking about?
Little Mermaid,
I'm not trying to say. Okay.
So it just says Disney Fantasy. The details are super sketchy in terms of that. There's 475 rooms. They're deluxe to luxury. They're supposed to be the nicest rooms in the area. This entire thing, Tokyo Disney Seas, this area, this is all a $2.2 billion project, 250 billion yen. This will be completed in 2022, so a little ways out there. But if you dive into the details for each of these lands, let's start with Frozen. Frozen, this is going to have a restaurant. It's going to have that restaurant inside the castle, and there's going to be a boat ride that is going to be like the main, you know, attraction for that land. So maybe something similar to what they've done at Epcot, because they had the Frozen ride there. But I would suspect that it'll be much more grand in terms of that.
Just knowing their track record and what they've done in the past, like I can't imagine that it will I can't imagine it will be a duplicate or a mirror of what's at Epcot. It's guaranteed to be better.
Yeah.
Plus, Epcot was held to kind of some constraints in terms of that show building and what they were replacing. So it's unlikely that it will be that level. It's got to be way over the top.
Yeah, for sure. Next thing, they're building a Tangled forest. So they'll have the tower from Tangled, which is a really like cool, beautiful structure, and then
You
it'll be
should see the
surrounded by
artwork. If you guys
mountains.
haven't seen it, we'll try to put some links and things like that. Maybe it'll be the thumbnail of this video. But the artwork of some of these areas is outstanding. Very
Yes,
cool.
whoever did this artwork, big thumbs up. Like
Yeah, fine
good
work. Fine
artist.
work award.
Yeah, it's nice to see this kind of quality. And so in that land, you'll have mountains, you'll have the tower for them for Rapunzel, you have the waterfalls. Now the attraction is interesting. It says it's gondolas, and it's themed after Rapunzel's best day ever. And in the end, they arrive at the port where they put the little brown paper bag with the candle in it, and it floats up into the sky.
Yes.
So I picture that actually being really cool if it is gondolas. So when I think of gondolas, I'm thinking of Peter Pan's ride system, how you're suspended and you look down upon the show scenes instead of being like on ground level looking side to side or whatever.
Yeah.
I prefer the Peter Pan system.
It's a neat system.
I think maybe operationally it's expensive or difficult to deal with. Maybe that's why they haven't done it in any other areas.
I don't necessarily see why it would be that. It's strain on some things mechanically, but I guess I don't really see that. All the other things have all the little wheels, so the wheels wear out. You're straining on some, but I don't know any of that stuff. So I guess I don't have the background to be able to say why that would be. I just can't imagine why is that more expensive than one of these other ones.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's in terms of if they have to evacuate the ride. I don't know actually how they evacuate Peter Pan. Maybe somebody could chime in on that.
Maybe approvals or something, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, maybe something.
But yeah, it looks really cool. There's going to be a restaurant, and it's going to be themed to the kind of Lucky Duckling or something like that. That was the a thing in the movie. I've only seen Rapunzel once, so I'm trying to remember how it went. There were some bandits, so it's going to be themed to the bandit kind of hideout, the Lucky Darling or Lucky Duckling. So that sounds cool. Rapunzel, the artwork looks amazing. Then finally, Neverland. This looks so cool. So you've got the mountains from Neverland. You've got like this giant rainbow. I hope that actually does make it in there somehow because it looks super cool behind the three volcanoes. You've got a lagoon, so you've got Skull Rock, something similar to
mermaids floating around probably.
Oh yeah, something maybe even similar to what they had at Disneyland back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Skull Rock at Paris is awesome. It's not, and I can't remember if that is actually Skull Rock, or if that's more associated with their with the Pirates, the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. It's been a while since I was in Paris, but it's super cool. One of my favorite things I've ever seen, actually, and favorite structures.
Yeah, I'm just, my gosh, looking at this. So yeah, you got the three peaks, you got the rainbow, you've got little steam coming out of these volcanoes, very similar to the film, and then the lagoon down below. So ride-wise, this is where it gets interesting. This attraction is going to be similar to, at least this is what kind of rumors are based on what they've said, very similar to Pandora. So in Pandora, Flight of the Passage, you sit down, so it's kind of like a Soarin' ride. You sit down and then you are put in a flying position. Your vehicle like flips you forward, so you're leaning forward, and it's going to be a flying attraction through Neverland trying to save one of the lost boys from the pirates. So that sounds really cool. There's going to be a second attraction there, very little detail on it, but it's something themed towards Pixie Hollow. There was those direct to DVD releases about Tinkerbell's buds, and it's going to be about them, I guess.
Okay.
So I guess that's interesting for people.
Hey, what did you call that? Flight of the Passage?
Yeah, Flight of Passage is the attraction at Animal Kingdom. It's like the big ride for Pandora.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I thought for a second you said Flight of the Navigator.
No.
Okay.
And then there's going to be a restaurant, and it's going to be themed to the Lost Boys Hideaway. So that sounds amazing.
Okay.
This
Lost Boys, like so the vampire movie that took place in Santa Cruz, or we're still talking about Peter Pan?
Oh, we're still talking about the Peter Pan. We're still talking about Peter Pan.
So the layout in Tokyo Disney, it's you have these 7 areas. They call them ports of call or something like that. Mm-hmm. So park entrance is kind of the Mediterranean harbor. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you have American water, Lost River Delta. Port Discovery, Mermaid Lagoon, Arabian Coast, and Mysterious Island, which is also awesome. Where do these other ones fit in here? Are they going to be plugged in kind of in the middle? Is this going to be expanded outward? How can you explain it?
So from what I've seen, and there's going to be like a river that flows in between, like Agrabah. Is that what that area is
Okay.
called?
Yeah, well, it's the Arabian coast, but yeah, you're right.
Arabian coast. Okay. So Arabian coast will be on one side, and then there's going to be another port there. And so supposedly this spring kind of flows because it's magical into fantasy kind of, it'll be really the fantasy land of Tokyo Disney Seas, because Tokyo Disney Seas needs to appeal a little bit more to families, is what I'm kind of gathering from some of the recent things they've done, like incorporating Nemo into one of their attractions. Is the park, definitely does give off a vibe of like an older demographic, but having this is great because this appeals to everybody. Yes, they're appealing a little bit more to children, but all these things are absolutely beautiful and really, really cool. So it's not like they're just like really targeting down on like little kids, but this is, how you should do it. Very broad appeal. So yeah, you've got the mountains over there looking really cool. You got Rapunzel. So the mountains from Neverland stretch over to the Rapunzel area, and then that gives way to like a giant snow peak where the Frozen area is. And then of course they have like the Arendelle Castle, not the Frozen Castle. That's a big point. That's Arendelle's castle, and then there's going to be kind of like a Matterhorn-like peak that is where Elsa's little frozen hideaway is going to be, and there's going to be a little Arendelle town, and this place looks. I couldn't imagine seeing some of this stuff from this hotel. Like absolutely amazing. Looking out those windows. Whew.
Okay. And none of this interferes with Portopia and any of the. Nothing's being closed. This is all just in addition. Is that right?
No, this is all in addition. This is taking over a parking lot. Like I said, this is like a $2.2 billion project. This one, like I said, 2022, and the whole thing encompasses 25 acres. That is far and exceeds the acreage that Star Wars Land is.
How do you like that? That's huge. So when we see the stuff with Galaxy's Edge, and it looks pretty big. This is way bigger than that.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. But now we're going off to Disneyland Paris.
Let me ask you one other question. You had mentioned early on about this hotel that's going to be in there. Is that going to be like by the Fantasy Springs port? Where's that going to go? And I heard there's only going to be one gift shop of all this stuff going down. They're only adding in one shop, which is awesome. But
where the hotel's going to go?
Yeah, where's that going to be? I'm actually looking at. Where's that in?
Yeah, I don't know. I from the looks of it, it's probably going to be, I don't know. From the concept art, I have no idea because they've taken a lot of like artistic liberties in terms of like the backgrounds and stuff like that. So there's not really any landmarks to really say like, this is where it is. I guess we could look at some aerial maps and try to figure it out. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I would assume that they would have it close to the Disneyland and the other hotel, just for monorail stations and stuff.
Okay. I get what you're saying too, especially maybe this park, younger kids have a hard time at first when they roll in here because it's so expansive. And there's areas I was looking at some pictures. It's probably about a week ago of like the New York Harbor area, and I think Old Cape Cod section and the New York Harbor area. There's a spot where if you look out. It's almost like you're out in the water and you look into the port where you can see like the Hightower Hotel and some of this other stuff. It looked like, if I remember that, you can't tell that this is a theme park. There's no way to tell that you're not in. Now, I'm not going to say you can't tell that you're not in New York because this is old New York. It's different, 20th century, but early 20th century. It doesn't look like, it looks real. Everything in this looks real. Like nothing looks fabricated and nothing looks like in ground. Like all these boats are kind of just bobbing up and down, floating around, and it's amazing. I can't wait to go to this park someday.
Yeah, someday we're going to that
major
park.
Major bucket list item.
So now we're going somewhere you have been, and that's Disneyland Paris.
Talk about Paris for a minute. Okay.
So as far as I know, there is no announcements for new attractions in the Disneyland Paris park. The only thing going on currently is the renovation to Phantom Manor. And, this is very far from me. So it's, I'm doing the best I can to do as much research. So Phantom Manor is getting completely overhauled. It's going to get real crazy. But where the money's being diverted is into their studio park. We spoke a little about that earlier.
We goofed about it. Yeah.
There's a lot of great stories about a particular board member back in the day when they opened the park, and she confronting, or not Lasseter, but Eisner about it. It's like, is there enough stuff for people to do here? He took her ear off. It's been a troubled park since then, but they're putting in a huge amount of money and time, and they're going to radically transform this park. It's just insane. But you've been there. Why don't you give it a little bit of a background, especially that Armageddon?
It's tough. So I was in Paris. We went to we had to pack everything into one day with the park. So we went to the Magic Kingdom first, and then we popped over here. Magic Kingdom was nice. That's a different podcast. I'd like to do a podcast on that, and maybe that could even be one of the YouTube videos, these short videos, where I could take some time to like show some video, show some photos, so I could kind of point to things. Very unique park over there, and definitely needs to be viewed as its own, separate. Like the same way that Tokyo or any of these other ones would be, where you have to go in there with the mindset of like you're not comparing it to a different one. Like, well, it's not like Disneyland because it's so different. Like the owner, like the management is different, the cast members are different, the guests are different, everything is different. So I liked the Magic Kingdom was great. Come across the street, and I joked earlier that maybe this is like an hour and a half. You're there 2 hours. Like there were so many things that were either closed or seemed terribly out of date. Like the Armageddon thing was there. Like this thing with Armageddon, like the movie came out a long time ago. What in the world is this doing here? Like I thought it was a joke. I thought somebody was messing around with me, or like I was having a dream. So you have this because you know how you guys have these Disneyland dreams, Scar. You have a Disneyland dream, but it's never like Disney. It's never like Disneyland. Like it's got some elements that kind of remind you of the park, or visually, maybe write down your main tunnel vision. Let's say you're looking at Main Street, you're on Main Street, you're looking up at the hub castle and everything, and that looks that's pretty dialed in. But off to the sides, it gets very zany and very weird, and maybe like your grandma's house is in there and all this stuff. And so Disney dreams are always bizarro, but yeah, that's what I felt was going on. I came in, the world's going on. So they had that. Their version of like the backlot tour, kind of like how Universal does this, and Universal does a great job with it. But they take you on this little thing, and it kind of goes around it. You see, they have that little segment where they show props from movies. I would tell you, without any kind of exaggeration, that 70% of the things that the announcer, the onboard pre-recorded ride spiel is saying that we're supposed to be looking at, these props, are not there. They're not even there. Not even there. There isn't even a sign, but the prop's not there because they're painting it or something. There's no indication that the thing that the narrator and the person that's taking us through this journey is talking about, there's no indication that is there, was ever there, will be there. It's outrageous. It looks like I'm taking a tour through somebody's backyard. There's nothing going on. I saw a pump over here. Is that for a pool? We don't have a pool. Okay, well, fine. I don't know what that's for. What is it? Is there Jaws? Is Jaws back? No, we don't have the Jaws. So like, it was just, I think the only thing that they had that I can even remember right now from that ride is one of the model vehicles from 101 Dalmatians, the live version of it. They had her Coupe de Ville or whatever. They had that. That's it. That's all I remember. It was in the line, and there was around it, and I remember, oh, that's cool, but there wasn't really anything else to do. Ratatouille wasn't open, so to be fair, I'm sure that ride's great. Couldn't go on. It wasn't open yet. It was just about to open. I swear, I think it opened like 2 weeks after we left. And the longest line we waited in was for the RC car that goes down. But to be completely honest, that's all I really remembered. I don't remember anything else.
There wasn't a lot to remember, to be honest with you. But this thing's going to be absolutely insane. So they're going to start rolling this out in 2021. So we had a little bit to go. This is a $2.5 billion expansion. So this is the most amount of money so far of any of these things we're talking about. So what they're going to do is they're going to create a completely different footprint to this park. They're going to remove a lot of that backlot stuff. So Armageddon's out of there. The Rock and Roll Roller Coaster is going to be renovated to Iron Man. So that's going to be completely rethemed. That's going to be a Marvel area. That's probably going to be the area that opens up first. And then what they're going to do is they're going to add this gigantic lake in the back of it. And so surrounding this lake, you're going to find a smaller version of Galaxy's Edge. So that's Star Wars Land. You're going to see the Millennium Falcon portion of it. So think of Galaxy's Edge, you cut it in half. So on one end, you have the city or the town or the outpost. And then on the other half, it's more foresty and there's bigger mountains. And that's where the Battle Escape attraction goes. And so that'd be where the Resistance is hidden out. And that's where you would get onto that. So it's not going to have that. It's just going to have the Millennium Falcon portion of it. So the Millennium Falcon ride. Which is still very impressive. And, you could see the big cliffs and stuff. Maybe eventually they'll expand it and add Battle Escape. And then to its right-hand side, that's where you get Frozen. So from the concept art, it looks like you're going to get Elsa's Frozen Castle here. So that's where you're going to get there. And you're also going to get the mountains. And there is a little
then this place is going to look, it's not even going to resemble what it is currently at all. It's going to look completely different, it sounds like.
So this gigantic lake in the center, if you walk down this long pathway to get to the lake, and then you see out, and you can see to the left, you see Star Wars, you see to the right, you see Arendelle and the big snow mountains and stuff. The Fitzgerald, good guy, important guy. He mentioned that their mountain is going to be the weenie of the park. So like you'll see that out in the distance and you will be, attracted to head out there. What really wasn't announced but in the concept art is there is some expansion to their Toy Story area. You'll see the green aliens. So that's going to be something added. And there's a few other little attractions. There's so much in this concept art that I hope does get built. They spoke a lot about gardens. Like everything was a garden. So
that's how the park across the street from there is too, or across the little way is. There's just, and they do a great job with it. There's just like flowers and the stuff is just everywhere gardens.
Yeah. So that looks like they're going to incorporate that. A renovated entrance into the park. This is insane. This is a huge amount of like stuff to be built. This is a complete renovation of the park. Like the park's not going to be the same at all. And there's going to be nighttime entertainment. So maybe something similar to Illuminations or World of Color will go into that central lake that they're creating in the back of the park, which then these lands will surround. And you can clearly see where more expansion will go. Like there's huge expansion plots all the way around there for, decades to come. So that's pretty cool.
I'm trying to think. Do they have no? So Siemens used to. They sponsored or they funded or what have you. Illuminations. I think they also did Spaceship Earth in Disney World. Is Siemens over there in? Because I think they really kind of disbanded completely from their involvement with Disney. Are they going to be representing any of the stuff that they're doing this nighttime show? Are they going to be sponsoring any of that stuff?
Not that I know of. Well, I mean, they've only notated it as entertainment in the lake. So
that's sometimes they're so vague with it, which is fine. It's fun to think about what it could be. So, but yeah, that's pretty vague.
That is pretty vague. And we're going now to Hong Kong. We're off to Hong Kong. This park, it's not the newest. Now Shanghai's the newest. I was wrong. So Hong Kong here, good park, little park. Not like a gigantic park like a Disney World or a Tokyo Disneyland. More themed to Disneyland's in scale and size, especially its castle, which they're taking out. They're taking out their castle because
they're taking the castle out. What's their problem with it? It's too small?
It was too small. People complained because it didn't look as good as Shanghai's. And so they want to compete with Shanghai.
Okay.
So they got a little competition there with their castle sizes.
Which is fine.
They're kind of going the same route that Shanghai did and incorporating multiple different princess design styles into one castle. So their most recent concept art actually looks fairly good. Some of the first concepts that came out looked a little wild, looked a little crazy, wasn't sure what was going on. But they kind of consolidated it and made the color scheme a little bit more consistent throughout, so it wasn't like some jarring different color schemes like this spire was one color and this portion of the castle was another. They've made it consistent, so it looks actually a lot nicer. They're going to have a whole water show in front of the castle when it's complete. This will be complete in 2020. It was 2019, but it's been pushed to 2020. By pushing it back, is that going to allow them to have the Wasp and Ant-Man attraction? That I think, is that replacing Buzz Lightyear? I can't remember, but is that going to allow them to actually do that? I think you had said that maybe not. Maybe that's off the board. No, so What it looks like is let's see, I do believe the Wasp is opening next year, but I'm not 100% sure because these once again are plans that have changed multiple times since they were announced in 2016, very similar to how Tokyo did it. Like they were throwing plans out left and right. They don't really do that in the United States very much. When they announce something, they generally do it. Except for the theater behind Main Street in Disney World. But, so Newcastle 2020. So the Wasp, yes, they're replacing that. Originally was Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters with your blaster. Going to be replaced by the Wasp and Ant-Man. So originally there was also going to be a Shield attraction, which potentially has been shelved. This expansion is $1.4 billion. Rollout was starting in 2018, ending in 2023. So I don't 100% know what the deal is with the Marvel area because they've already opened Iron Man. They'll be opening the Wasp. These are both attractions like in Tomorrowland, but kind of like separate. So
I think they also opened Moana's Village Festival. That was this year though. That's happened this year, I think.
Yes, yeah, and that's just some kind of little like.
It's a small little deal, but it's people are coming. Like they've been down financially, I mean attendance wise, and they've been. I think the last 3 years they've been bleeding for about 3 years on that park.
Yeah, so this is another big push to try to especially compete because I do believe Shanghai is actually doing fairly well.
But Frozen Land is supposed to take longer, right? Isn't because this is definitely done in phases. I feel like.
Yeah, so like I said, 2018 to 2023, the Marvel area is kind of up in question in terms of the Shield attraction, which is something that we'll probably be getting at Anaheim. So the Frozen Land 2020. And this is an interesting land because there's still very few details. So you're getting Arendelle's castle, you're getting the Arendelle village, and the giant mountain. So consistent theme throughout all of this. Everyone's getting Frozen. When Frozen first came out, if you remember, Disney didn't realize it was going to be the success that it was, and it took them off guard. And then they kind of rushed out and were like, "Oh, we got to add Frozen to everything. Every park gets Frozen." You're kind of now seeing that catch up to itself, and we're seeing these being added to parks. But my fear is that maybe Frozen's been kind of burnt out. The generation that grew up with Frozen is starting to move on.
That's a good point. I didn't really think of that. The films of all time, and the merchandise was out of control. But yeah, you're right. I mean, some of these. When did the Frozen come out? When was that released? 15.
Somewhere around there, yeah, 15, 14, somewhere around there.
13. Yeah.
But yeah, that's a concern that I have is that the generation has grown up, and I don't think Frozen in terms
shows how much we know. Frozen comes out in 2013. That was a long time ago.
Wow, really?
It's at least 5 years ago this movie comes out.
Wow. So a lot of the people doing a lot of the singing are quite a bit older now. So
sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Frozen's good. The lands that they're building look absolutely beautiful. Imagineers did a phenomenal job on that. So what's interesting about this is they're actually going to be doing a different attraction here. It's going to be very similar to Seven Dwarfs Mine Train at Disney World and in Shanghai, but it's going to be themed towards Frozen, and it's going to be that wandering Olaf guy, the
who's he? He's the snowman, right?
No, I always goof his name up. Wandering Oakloff or something. What's his name? It was. He had the shop, and they went in there, and he goes,
right,
family.
Right. There you go. Okay.
So this is going to be kind of themed to him over there, and it's going to to be these sleighs.
It's a roller coaster, isn't it? It's
going to be a roller coaster, yeah. Originally, it was just going to be like a spinner ride over here. But
glad they changed their mind.
Oh yeah, 100%. This looks great. And it's
different. It probably went back to the same thing with. Do you think it had something to do with the competition with Shanghai? They're like, well, Shanghai, so they didn't want to get the spinner ride. That's something for a carnival.
Yeah, so maybe. And this concept art looks absolutely beautiful. Whoever did these things, gosh, man.
Yeah, they're outstanding. The one of Hong Kong is hello, awesome.
Yeah, I don't know where these people were with some other stuff recently, but. So we've got the mountain over there, got Arendelle, you got the roller coaster. Will there be another attraction in here other than the roller coaster? I kind of think there will be, and maybe that's the reason why we're not hearing anything anymore about the Shield attraction. and they might throw in another ride, maybe something that they're doing at Tokyo. There is also some like agreements with like Hong Kong and Tokyo about exclusivity, like, hey, we want an exclusive ride that's nowhere else in the world, and we'll get it for like 5 years. So sometimes that all kind of plays into it, and it's why maybe some of the different parks are getting different versions of Frozen. I mean, I'm going off of in the past, like Mystic Manor had a 5-year exclusivity attached to it, similar to like Grizzly Gulch roller coaster.
So is Elsa's Ice Castle, is that going to be a walkthrough? Is that something like this, or is it inaccessible, or is it just kind of for show?
I don't know. For Hong Kong, the details are vague.
Okay.
You know, it's a similar thing. Like Disney doesn't outright own the park. You know, they have the Hong Kong government to deal with and stuff. So the details are always vague and changing when it comes to this stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't seem like they released too much stuff on this, but maybe that's because they've said so much that hasn't come to fruition that they're just like, we won't say anything because who knows what can happen.
Yeah, but it's exciting. Like that's a lot of really cool things, and that's a lot of money being spent. Now that Disney owns Disneyland Paris outright, they can go in there and they can change a lot of things. You've seen massive changes in the last bit since they took over, and especially with these expansion plans, there's a lot less bureaucracy that they have to go through to expand the parks now. And so I think
What do you
Disneyland
think
Paris
that
is
is?
up and up.
What is the thing that's given them a little bit more like carte blanche on some of this stuff?
Well, they own it outright. They bought. They
right.
bought it out. So originally there was a lot of they had stuff with the government. They had its own shares. I don't know all that business stuff, but I do know they own it outright now.
Well, good stuff.
But man, that's crazy. What's your favorite thing? What's your favorite thing out of all this?
Down this list. Man, it's tough to say. I think I'd probably have to go with Tokyo Disney Seas just because, and I haven't been there, but I also really like the fact that they're beefing up the Paris park because I think that Hong Kong was just a few million more visitors than went to Disneyland in Hong Kong than this, maybe 1 more million than the Paris thing, which doesn't get anybody. So we knew that they were in trouble. The fact that they're setting up the studios over there at Paris, I think, is great. So that's as a whole. But in terms of an individual attraction, I would have to say I hope that they have a roaming character of that guy from the Asylum, the Beauty and the Beast land over Tokyo Disney. But for Disney Seas, I think again, I don't think I can click. I don't think I can just pick one of these individual attractions. I think the hotel over there is going to be awesome at Seas, and I just want to see how are they going to put Tangled Land, Frozen Land, Neverland. How are they going to put these and have this Fantasy Springs port? They're going to have all of this around that body of water. You mentioned the river, the little stream they're going to put in there. I can't wait to see the finished product and the construction photos, of course, but to see a time lapse of that, it would just be outstanding. So I'm just excited that they're doing things, and it's not 100% influenced by IP. A lot of it is stuff that has come from their animation studios, some stuff from Pixar, but I think that's cool. I'd love to see more original ideas. Always, I'd always love to see something that's brand new, completely new, not even from a movie, TV show, whatever. But that's we get those every once in a while. But I'm excited. The whole thing is really exciting. I can't believe it. So.
Yeah, I'm most excited, of course, for Tokyo also, followed up by Paris just because that park needs something so badly. But I'd say my overall favorite thing is probably Neverland because it's just kind of out of the blue. You weren't expecting it. You always thought, they'll probably just do a Frozen or a Tangled.
There were a lot of unexpected
they did, and it's
things
great.
In Neverland Ranch, too. So it's just, it's one of those things. You're not really what's ever going on,
Yeah, but the Neverland looks really cool with the pirate ships and the attractions. And, when you look at this, you think, there's probably not a lot of rides, but there's going to be 4 attractions and there are 4 rides. That's absolutely insane amount of things that you'll be able to do. That expands the footprint of that park dramatically. So hopefully that does help with their kind of things that they need to do. They need to help with crowds and they need to attract younger people. So I think that'll do everything they want with this whole fantasy area. And I think it blends in with the rest of the park perfect. Is you have some more of these kind of New York areas and things like that, but it needed that balance of that fantasy. So I think they do things right over there.
They really do. What do you think? Is there anything interesting going on? The only one we didn't mention was we didn't talk about California parks. We'll do that later, or Florida parks. But you didn't mention anything about Shanghai. Are they doing anything funny over there? Or, they do yoga in the park sometimes, stuff like that.
Not that I know of. I know that the park is doing well. but I have not been looking at it too much. What I do know is that they did open Toy Story, so they have a Toy Story land. Seems interesting. So they got that hanging out over there doing its thing. But other than that, I don't know. I would suspect we'll probably hear something fairly soon within the next year of another expansion, because I do believe it is very crowded there. And, you know, they've got some good attractions. They got Tron. They got the Pirates of the Caribbean over there. But
that's right. I forgot that they have that Pirates of the Caribbean is outrageous. And did you say that the Tron Light Cycles is coming to one of the California, one of the U.S. parks, or no?
Yes, it's coming to Disney World. It's under construction right now.
Okay, great. But so Disney World, that park, they've got. Well, we'll talk about that later. But that's good to know, because I always the footage I've seen of that, I really try not to watch too much of the footage because I want to go on it and be surprised. But it looks awesome.
Yeah, it looks really cool. But there we go. That is a lot of news to cover for the Disney company as a whole, and of course the Disney Park branch for all the new stuff, especially coming to our overseas friends parks. And man, I'm super jealous of the stuff they're getting. They're really cool.
We'll get ours at some point. Maybe we but we'll take a trip out. But that's the whole thing. Is the argument that I was reading and hearing from some of these people is that, like, instead of just sitting here and complaining, like, or, you know, wishful thinking, oh man, I wish California had that, I wish Orlando had this or had this. Go to Tokyo. I know it's not that easy. Again, we're with our own. How are we going to get out there? But that's the solution too. Is like, they're getting that cool stuff. Go check it out if you can. You know, sometimes you got to make some sacrifices. If you can, go check it out. I can't wait. We're going to get there one way or the other. I just don't know when.
Yep, someday. But there we go.
Sure.
That is another Backlot Boys podcast. I love doing these. I can't be more excited to be back doing these once again. We got a lot of super awesome ideas, and we definitely do want to get to the user suggested questions and or topics. So if you have topics and or questions you'd like to ask us, please put them in the comments on YouTube or reach us on Twitter. And feedback is always very important. And there we go.
Please throw them out there. And one question. You guys can answer this in the comments. If Good Times with Scar, if Scar was a type of a cheese, what cheese would he be? And maybe why? Maybe just a couple of words on why. Or you don't even have to say why, just what kind of cheese. You'll put that in the comments and maybe some kind of funny hashtag about cheese. But what kind of cheese is Good Times with Scar? What kind of cheese is it?
Okay. Well, I'd actually like to know what kind of cheese I am. I do know that my cat loves mozzarella cheese. Just a fun fact. But anyway, guys, this has been the Backlot Boys.
Jelly looks like a ball of mozzarella cheese. A little more, a little gray. A little older. It's been in the fridge for a while. All right.
She does. Anyway, guys, this has been the Backlot Boys, and we'll see you next time.